All right. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for December 5th, 2019. Q's about flat from yesterday, up a little bit, and SPY, same thing, up just 0.14, about the same as the Q's here. Coming into today, we were watching the daily here, looking at this retracement, expecting that underneath today's low that we should get some follow through. Now, we didn't get that on the SPY, but it looks like we got a little bit on the Qs, and there was some follow through this morning, right? There was some initial selling, but it did not, was not kind of maintained, right? Got the drop, and then market strong, rallied ever since, and now noticing that the hourly has actually recovered now, right back up. Okay, so going into tomorrow, a little bit more bearish on the Qs because we did get the break, and then neutral on the SPY because we didn't get that break below the lows there on the daily. So while, we've had months really where we had a nice clean, clear bullish bias and we switched to a neutral bias, we're starting to see that kind of back and forth start to play out as the picture starts to become less clear, right? And that, I think, is going to happen. It was pretty clean and cut and clear that we were bullish. We started to accelerate a little bit away around Thanksgiving, and then, right, we saw bears step up. We did see some selling, and now we're kind of in the middle of the range. Okay, so a little bit less conviction going into tomorrow's bias on the market here. Okay, so SPY is still gonna be neutral, waiting for a break of yesterday's low, and then Qs were bullish or bearish bias, but looking like that it actually may get negated. Above today's high, no longer bearish. Okay, looks like the attempt was made to follow through on this red bar, and there was pretty minimal follow through there. Okay, so very, very interesting. I think when this red bar happened, we did, talk about we do need to take notice. What comes of this red bar is going to be telling for the rest of the year. I think a lot of people are kind of wondering if we're going to get the same kind of selling that we got last year. But keep in mind, last year's selling started at the end of October, right? And you can see through the last couple months, we've been pretty strong. Okay, so it's looking less and less like the selling that started at the end of last week is actually going to get follow through. Okay, the beginning of this week. It looks like the selling that we got this week is looking less and like it's going to follow through. Okay, so neutral to bearish going into tomorrow. Over today's high on the Qs, we will be back to bullish. Okay, we also identified two weekly, monthly, still looking higher. Okay, so that short-term conflict, short-term time frame conflict versus the long-term, not that surprising that we're getting kind of these false moves, right? Morning selling got picked back up. I think probably some news came in here, but that also was quickly negated there on the Qs. So going into tomorrow, neutral to bearish, we'll see. Over today's high, going to be switching back to bullish. All right, let's talk about today's plays. We'll start with the Etsy, and of course, for plays that triggered, it's we're gonna have to talk about management as well. How did we manage the play? Right? When did we either take targets or take our stops? Right? And so the Etsy was watching it this morning just for this 2-minute retracement. Okay, we'll start here with the daily. All right, gapping underneath this base pro gap on the Etsy. Weekly looking to continue a downtrend, and then monthly looking like, it's been rolling over, transitioning out of the uptrend. So I do like the time frame alignment on this Etsy. I thought this was a good gap, a good bearish gap. Okay, even though it has been kind of gapping down already as of late. and wanted to see how much we could get on this retracement. So first, pro gap, bearish bias due to the pro gap, and then we got this retracement. Okay, I was watching for this to trigger, and the numbers were 40-15 by 40-40. Okay, you can see there's the retracement. And then I did say we did have to adjust just a little bit because this broke to 41. And then once it kind of reversed, right, we were ready to play it. Okay, it did take some time to get going. The targets were 1R, which ended up being just about 39.80. Okay, we're looking for new low, so we did get to that target one there. All right, and then ended up the back half didn't want to work. Okay, so break even play on the Etsy, not that unlike the VST from yesterday. You get a nice initial drop, and then it doesn't want to follow through too much after that, and so we just are out at the original stop there. So a little bit of a drop, and then it got picked up. Okay, and then the PDCO was the next play. Here's the PDCO. The PDCO was a breakout right here with targets at 23 and basically end of day is what we were looking for there. Okay, base breakout here on the PDCO. That was the other call, and we were able to hold it pretty much until end of day. We did take target one when it got to 23 here, okay, and then held half, okay, and then closed the rest here at the end of the day, okay. So, you know, it was something that I think someone mentioned, you know, really impressive hold on the PDCO as we kind of made it into the end of the day and was making new highs. And, you know, I thought that it's easy to kind of, you know, harp on this. We had a very similar play on the Reggie a couple days ago, right, where, again, another nice base setup, breakout, and then we're able to hold it until end of day, right? But we're not going to get plays like that without getting plays like the Etsy, right? So, you know, the Etsy, I know some people who played it with me took the whole thing at the lows, and you know, that ended up being the best thing to do. But especially when I get a gap, I know that it's moving. I want to hold it. So for every one of these PDCOs, right, that ends up, we get to hold it all day, ends up being a nice play, right? We're going to have some that end up just, you know, giving the back half back. We end up with a break-even play. And for me, if all it was going to go is about an R and I end up with just a break-even play, I'm okay with that, right? It's these, like the PDCO and the Reggie, that go multiple R's that I want to make sure I don't get left with a break-even play. So I know, you know, some people like to go to break-even maybe soon after the play gets in. I do try to avoid that, right? Because especially on something like this PDCO, right? Like if you went to break-even too early, you would have got tripped out. Maybe you got tripped out right here, right? And so for me, I let it kind of, once there's money on the table, I protect some, right? And then try to let the rest ride out. And it's a lot easier for me to hold. I mean, I do have conviction for this PDCO to continue because I liked this gap, you know, transitioning out of this huge base here on the daily. I thought it was very bullish. I thought it held up very well this morning when the market was getting sold. This was staying pretty strong, got a shakeout right there, and then right back up to the highs. Okay. So, you know, I did think that this should be held higher all day, but you can imagine that it's a lot easier to live through these pullbacks when I've already taken half, right? Of course, you know, it'd be nicer to have the whole thing here to get out at the highs, right? But the reason that I look to take half at that target one is because of things like Etsy. Now I end up with a break-even play. Did I expect Etsy to go a lot further? Of course, right? I expected Etsy, once it was cleared of this base, to start to, you know, continue this hourly downtrend some more. So, you know, that's the reason, right, for the management rule number 2, right? Once we get to target one, right, I can trail half. If there is no target 2, then I take the whole thing and then let the rest kind of run, right? And so, you know, sometimes you let it run in something like that. See, okay, we end up with a break-even play, But I thought the PDCO, once we got out half, pretty easy to hold, right? Just let that 65-minute bar by bar kind of work its way up, right? Reggie was the same thing, right? Reggie, we were in it until end of day. Even looked like it was going to maybe trail right there, but ended up closing right up at the highs. Okay, so, I think it's only fair to recognize, that like on a day like today, for every one of these like PDCOs that end up being a good all day hold, some, you're going to end up with a break even play. It's not a big deal. And it's not that plays don't ever, stop out or anything like that. It's just, this, when it comes to the management, right, and you get something that starts to move in your favor, and nobody likes to give back, right? This is the way that I like to avoid giving back. Okay, so yeah, once we get that initial target there, you can take half, makes it essentially a free play. Break even play, you can't lose on it, right? So so you can just kind of see why, that's the management I choose with, the management that's comfortable, the management that I can be the most consistent with. Okay, so hopefully, you were able to participate in some of these plays today. I think there hasn't been as much activity as what we had in November, but that's to be expected as things start to wind down. There's still things to trade, obviously, as you can see, still calls being made in the room. Okay. All right. So going into tomorrow, neutral to bearish on the Qs and SPY over today's high. We're going to be switching back to bullish. All right, that larger time frame starting to kick back in. We're starting to get time frame alignment on the hourly and the weekly and monthly, just seeing if that daily is going to also look back up higher. So we'll see. All right. Hope you did well today. If not, we'll be back at it tomorrow, and I will talk to you then. Have a good evening.